So now let's do some practical. Okay, let's do some sitting meditation, and then when the mind settles down, we'll try to see whether the 7 factors of enlightenment or 7 factors of awakening are there. We'll try to identify them. You can try to look at the causes of how they appear and how to develop them later. But right now, we just want to introduce you to how to identify them. Okay, so sit back with your back straight. And let's practice 6 sense awareness, open awareness. You can keep your eyes open, slightly open, and maintain an unfocused gaze, just knowing that seeing is happening. Remember the 3 steps. The first step is to bring your attention to your senses, your 5 senses. Being aware that seeing is happening. That the ears are hearing different sorts of sounds. You could check the other senses to see whether they are active or not. Whether you're smelling anything, tasting anything. And of course, the unescapable bodily feelings, bodily sensations, the sense of being seated, as well as the sensations on your skin that come into contact with your clothing, your seats, or with the air. And as you are aware of your body, move on to step number 2, which is to relax. Relax if possible. If you have some chronic problems and you cannot relax, then it's still okay. You can move on. There are many other things to be aware of. Relax also your mind. You're not trying to grasp at any particular object. You're not trying to find the rising and falling or the breathing at your nostrils. And just allowing the mind to move freely among the senses. Just relax, step back and look at what's happening. You're not trying to imagine anything, you're not trying to manipulate anything. You're just stepping back to observe how the mind relates to the five senses. If you are used to watching the breath at the nostrils or at the abdomen, and the mind automatically goes there, it's still okay. Let it be. But don't shut out all other senses. And then we move on to step number 3, which is about the sixth sense, seeing whether your mind is thinking. If there are any thoughts, whether about the present, the past, or the future, or just fantasies, remember that they are just a natural activity of the mind. You don't have to push them away, you don't have to suppress them. Neither do you want to pursue those thoughts. Just acknowledge this natural activity of the mind. Let it go. Come back to step 1 and 2. These 3 steps can be summarized to just one step. If you could periodically ask yourself, what's the mind aware of? What's the mind doing? Try to remain absolutely still. Try to bear with unpleasant sensations. So that you can see very clearly how the mind relates to the senses and how they interact with one another. Blink only when you cannot bear with the unpleasant sensations in your eyelids, so that you can catch that urge to want to blink again and again. If there's an itch, an ache, some numbness, don't unmindfully scratch or move. Be aware of the urges that arise in you first. Wanting to scratch, wanting to move. And bear with that until you cannot do so. Then only move, but be aware of the whole process. Please try to keep your eyes open, and especially so if you are sleepy. Now let's try to identify the awakening factors. Can you identify sati? Can you see that quality of remembering instructions, remembering the 3 steps, reminding yourself every now and then, what's the mind doing? Is it thinking? Is it aware of the senses? Can you see how sati looks back at what had just happened? Whether at your five senses or at the mind. Can you see the quality of investigation? Investigating to identify sati. Can you see the quality of effort? Putting in the effort to remember instructions. Can you identify any feelings of intense, pleasurable interest in what you're doing? How about tranquility of mind and body? And isn't there a sense of collectedness, of composure? And the equanimity of being able to accept things as they come and go. Not liking any pleasant experiences, nor disliking any unpleasant ones. Even if dislikes and likes were to appear, and the mind is able to look at them and accept them as a natural phenomena, that can also bring a temporary occurrence of equanimity. So if you've been following instructions, trying not to move until you cannot bear to do so, then you would also be able to see how the urges to move and the final decision to do so come about because of causes and conditions. Okay, end of our experiment. So I hope that this is a good introduction, whereby you can now sort of identify what the factors of awakening are. Of course, this is only 20 minutes into your sitting. If you do longer, perhaps they may become more apparent, clearer, and more profound, and more developed. All right. So this is just to introduce you to how to look and identify.